All right, so ready to do a deep dive into based on a true story? Season 1.
Oh, absolutely. Always down for a good, twisted story.
Perfect. Consider us your, royal recappers for this one. Based on a true story, it's a dark comedy, thriller, so many things all at once.
It really is. And it keeps you guessing right from the start. You've got Ava and Nathan, a couple in LA, just trying to, make things work, pay the bill.
Yeah, pretty normal, relatable stuff.
Exactly. And then suddenly they're caught up in this whole serial killer thing.
Oh, yeah. Talk about a plot twist.
And all while they're trying to launch a true crime podcast, no less. I mean, who thinks of that?
That's what makes it so good.
Yeah.
It's they took everything we love, true crime, a bit of real estate drama, that whole struggling couple dynamic.
And threw in a dash of Dexter for good measure. You're laughing 1 minute, then on the edge of your seat the next.
Totally. So Ava and Nathan, they're not your typical crime-solving duo. She's obsessed with true crime podcasts.
And he's a former tennis pro trying to figure out what's next. It's kind of like their fascination with true crime becomes this escape from their own, kind of boring lives.
Totally. And then you have Matt, the plumber.
Who Ava suspects might be the West Side Ripper.
Talk about a handyman you don't want to call.
Yeah.
But they need a hit podcast. So what do? They decide to team up with Matt.
To make a show about, him. The irony is not lost, right?
Definitely not. And you see how the power shifts almost immediately. Matt, he's got this charisma, but it's unsettling.
Oh, absolutely. And he starts to control everything. The podcast, their lives, everything.
And then things go really dark. The CrimeCon episode, remember that?
Oh, yeah. The West Side Ripper survivor ends up dead right after Matt runs into her.
Talk about a coincidence.
Yeah.
Ava and Nathan have got to be freaking out at this point.
Oh, totally. They're way in over their heads. But the show does a really good job of making us think about our own, fascination with true crime. Are we part of the problem?
That's a good point. Are we just as obsessed with the darkness as Ava?
Exactly. It makes you think. And things don't slow down. The podcast gets more and more popular, which means more danger for Ava and Nathan. And then Ruby finds out their secret.
Ava's best friend. Right. Yeah, that's where things get really real. Matt doesn't like loose ends.
Nope. He doesn't. And suddenly, Ava and Nathan are involved in a cover-up. This isn't just a podcast anymore. It's their lives.
And that ending. When we find out that Matt, the suspected serial killer, is engaged to Ava's sister, Tori.
Oh my gosh, right. That reveal, it's genius. You're left with so many questions. What's going to happen to Tori? Will Ava and Nathan get away with it?
Talk about a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
This show is so good at keeping you in suspense, always wondering what's going to happen next.
And just when you think you've got it figured out, bam, another twist.
But before we jump into all that, let's take a step back and look at what makes season 1 so effective. The storytelling, the characters.
Yeah, there's a lot to unpack there. It's amazing how they use humor, It almost makes you forget how messed up everything is.
Right. It's a dark comedy, but it's also really dark. That scene with Ava in the rug.
Oh my gosh, yes. She's trying to hide this blood-soaked rug, and there's a baby crying in the background.
It's hilarious and terrifying all at the same time.
Totally. It's are they losing it, or are they just embracing the craziness of it all?
It kind of makes you think about appearances versus reality.
Yeah.
Everyone in the show is putting on this act.
Oh yeah, for sure. Ava and Nathan, they're pretending to have this perfect life, perfect marriage.
But underneath it all, everything's falling apart.
Exactly. And Matt, he's this charming handyman, but he might be a serial killer. It's who can you trust?
It makes you super paranoid. You never know what's going to happen next.
And the show is so good at revealing things slowly, You get these hints about Matt's past, but you never get the full picture right away.
They're teasing you, keeping you hooked. And then just when you think you've figured it out.
Bam. Another twist. When we find out that Matt sabotaged Nathan's tennis career.
Oh yeah, that was a crazy reveal. Suddenly their whole relationship makes more sense. In a messed up way, I mean.
Right. It shows how much control Matt has, how long he's been manipulating them.
He's like a puppet master. And Ava and Nathan are his puppets.
It's what makes him such a good villain, though. He's not just evil for the sake of being evil. He's got reasons, he's smart, and you almost feel bad for him sometimes.
Almost. But then he does something horrible and you're like, nope, definitely a bad guy.
Exactly. And Ava and Nathan, they start out as these relatable characters, but they get sucked into this whole mess with Matt, and you start to question their choices.
They want fame, they want success, but they're also terrified. And it makes you wonder, how far would you go for your dreams? Would you cross that line?
That's the thing about this show. It makes you think about that stuff. It's not just entertainment. It's like a commentary on our obsession with true crime, with darkness.
And that ending, with Matt engaged to Ava's sister, what were they thinking?
I know, right? It's the perfect cliffhanger. You have to know what happens next. Will they protect Tori? Will their secret come out?
It's like everything is about to explode.
And season 2 does not disappoint. It takes everything from season 1 and turns it up to 11.
Seriously.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that in a bit. First, I want to talk more about those final moments of season 1 and how they set the stage for everything that comes next.
It's like they had this plan, this whole roadmap for where they wanted to take the story.
Yeah, they didn't just throw that ending in there for shock value. It totally sets up all the themes of season 2, the family drama, the secrets.
Yeah, absolutely. And now Ava and Nathan, they're not just worried about themselves anymore. They're trying to protect Tori.
Right, because she's living with Matt and she has no idea who he really is. It's like you want to scream at the TV, run, Tori, run.
It's so stressful, but it's also really sad, you know, because you see how easily Matt can manipulate people. He did it to Ava and Nathan, and now he's doing it to Tori.
And it makes you think, could it happen to any of us? Could we fall for someone like that?
I think that's why the show is so effective. It plays on our fears, our anxieties about trust and betrayal.
Yeah, it's like, who can you really trust?
Yeah.
And how do you know if someone's telling the truth?
Big questions. And the show doesn't give you easy answers. It just keeps you guessing, keeps you thinking.
Which is what good storytelling should do, right? And even with all the darkness, all the suspense, they still manage to find moments of humor.
Oh, yeah, for sure. It's a dark comedy, after all. Like, even when things are super intense, there's always that little bit of humor that keeps it from being too heavy.
And it helps you connect with the characters, even when they're making bad decisions.
Totally. They're not perfect, they make mistakes, but you still root for them. You want them to figure things out.
And that's the heart of the show, really. It's about these flawed, complex characters trying to survive in this crazy world.
Exactly. And I think that's why people love it so much. It's entertaining, it's suspenseful, but it also makes you think.
So, to wrap things up, if you're a fan of true crime, dark comedies, or just good storytelling in general, based on a true story, is definitely worth checking out. Season 2 is streaming now on Peacock, and believe me, you won't be disappointed.
Nope, you won't. It's a wild ride, and it's only getting crazier.
Until next time, happy watching. And remember, sometimes the truth is stranger than fiction, especially when it comes to stories like this.